Hola friends, welcome to the Medicine, Marriage, and Money YouTube channel, the only channel for physicians who want to achieve marital interdependence and financial freedom together. On this channel, you will learn how to show up as the best version of yourself so that you can love intentionally and build a more financially savvy relationship with your spouse. And I am your host, a physician mom, a doctor's wife, a Gottman leader, a certified life and marriage coach, Dr. Kate Mangona. Welcome. Bienvenidos. Hello, beautiful friends. I think I can see you and I can hear you. And I see a few of you in here with me. Let me know, give me a wave. Let me know where you're watching from. Hashtag replay if you're watching this again. You are going to hear the podcast this week live. I am recording it live so you can listen to it before any of my other listeners on their podcast apps, iTunes or Google or Spotify, listen to it. So here we go. Welcome, seat friends, and welcome to another episode of Medicine, Marriage, and Money. Today, I am so excited to talk about this topic of how to give your spouse or how to give your loved one, even if it's maybe not even your spouse, but how to give your loved one more grace. I am so excited because this is something that I practice in my life every single day. I'm not an expert at it, although I talk about it all the time. And when I say I'm not an expert at it, what I'm saying is I'm not perfect at it in my own life. However, I've studied this. I've studied relationships for years. I've coached clients in relationships for years. So I do feel like I am an expert on how to give your spouse more grace. I know how to do it. I know what to do. I know the path. And I'm going to share with you those 8 secrets, those 8 tips that I have gathered along the way. Now, putting them into the practice is a different story. And it's not going to be perfect every time. And you're going to get to realize this and know this as I go through our 8 points today. And, this is a topic I've been wanting to discuss for a long time because for the past several years, especially since I've been more active on social media and having my podcast, my YouTube channel, a lot of people have asked me, Kate, how do you make it look so easy? How do you do it all? How are you a mom of 3 little kids? How are you a physician? How are you a coach? How do you plan your vacations and make sure you spend time with all your friends and text them all the new up-to-date, whatever things that you want to talk, and then also call your friends. I make it a point to also call my seasoned friends that I've had in my life and keep that connection going on. So when people ask me this, for the past couple of years, I've always been like, well, what are you talking about? I mean, I don't have it together, right? My life's a mess. I'm a hot mess, just like we all feel like hot messes all the time. Have you seen my house lately? But before, not when I'm preparing for a 4-year-old birthday party and I make sure it's clean and organized. And then I'm like, you know what? I actually do have a lot of tips to offer you guys. Somehow you think that I'm making it look easy. And let me tell you this, you also make it look easy. I was talking with my best friend last week and her coworker turned to her and said, how do you make it? How are you always so happy, right? She's got a very difficult home situation. She's got a couple of young kids who demand a lot of attention. One with special needs, with a lot of therapies all the time, and the other one also with just some additional needs at home. And a lot of the times she's calling me, we're talking right heart to heart, best friends since 3rd grade, and she's saying things that she doesn't say to anybody else. She just says them to me. She just says them to her spouse. She just says them to her mom. I bet you guys are the same way. You're not sharing all your struggles with social media all the time, with all of your friends all the time. But when you show up to work when you show up with your friends for a night out, when you show up for your patients, you put on your smile, you put on your happy face. A lot of us do, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us. And people might wonder, how do you do it? How do you show up like this? Like you must have magic and unicorns and rainbows all day at home. And the truth of the matter is, that's not the case. I barely got my 3 kids to school this morning on time. 2 of them didn't even make it through the gates. We had to go through the back entrance. I didn't quite make it to where I had to sign in the principal's office, the headmaster's office, but we had to go through the back gates. I had to get back out of my car to make sure, like we barely cut it off. I forgot my toddler's backpack today. And then I turned around to go get it, realized I was in the middle of crazy traffic, couldn't make it, turned right back around to go to the school 20 minutes late. So life is a mess. And let me just outline those 8 tips that I'm going to tell you of how to give your spouse more grace. And I preface this, I tell you this background because I want you to know that even though I offer these tips, my life's still a mess on the inside. Your life, I'm sure, is messy on the inside too. From the outside, it doesn't always look that way. It rarely looks that way from other people. Other people, and I was hanging out at a mastermind after work on last Thursday to meet up with a bunch of my life coach school friends. Couldn't make it for the actual event because I did have to work, but I was able to make it afterwards to say hi. And one of my mentors said, I don't think you realize how everybody else sees you. And, sometimes we want to play small. We want to hide. We don't want to put that much stuff out there because we don't think we might not see ourselves the way other people see us. We might not see ourselves as the leader, right? As the one who knows how to give grace and delivers grace every day to our spouse, to our kids, to our friends, to our coworkers. You have that ability. So I'm here to tell you, you do make it look easy from the outside. We do see you as an amazing leader, as an amazing mother, as an amazing physician. Like even the fact that you are still living and breathing and growing and contributing every day, we see that. So how then do we give our spouse more grace on a daily basis? I'm going to tell you, number 1 is self-reflection. We're going to have to really, when we see them mess up, right? And I already told you how much I messed up today. And you may be thinking about how much you messed up this past week, this past month. Let's reflect on that. Understand that. And then give ourselves grace for that. It's okay my toddler didn't have her backpack today. It's okay last week that I didn't leave the right keys home for my nanny to take the minivan and I had to drive back, wasted 40 minutes of my time driving back to give them to her. Then my kids were then an hour late for their swim lessons. And then my husband had to go pick up my oldest kid who was still in school. Yeah, it set up this chain reaction. And guess what? My spouse also had one of the extra sets of minivan keys with him. We both had it. So my nanny had none. So she was stuck at home. But I gave myself grace. I gave him grace. Didn't blame anybody. Just came back home, gave her the keys, and we went on with life. So self-reflection, maybe reflecting on your own actions, on your own behaviors, opens you up to the possibility that when you afford yourself more grace, you can also afford some more of it for your spouse. Let's talk about this a little bit more. Number 2, apologize sincerely and be the first to admit when you're wrong or be the second. And sometimes we might not want to admit when we're wrong, right? Because it takes a blow to our ego. We're taught in medical school and residency, in our medical training, that we can never be wrong. When we mess up, poop hits the fan. When we mess up, people die. When we give the wrong dose to the patient, bad things can happen. And look, I'm not talking about then. I'm talking about at home. Can we flip the switch? Can we turn the dial down when we're at home with our spouse, with our children, with our loved ones, even sometimes with our friends? When we do that, when we apologize that maybe we messed up, that gives us more opportunity, that opens the gates a little bit to allow our spouse to also admit their faults and apologize. Not that that's what we're expecting when we do, but when we show up softer, they show up softer. They receive. When we want that soft place to land at home and we're not receiving it, it's probably because we are not giving it. When we give it to ourselves, when we apologize, we open up that soft place. That's being vulnerable. Okay, this brings us right into my third point of practicing empathy. When we can see the lens of our spouse, we can see life through their eyeballs, we're able to empathize with them. Of course, he would have the extra minivan key. Of course, because I have one too. Of course, he would come home with, or he, she, they would come home with bowls and bowls of empty, rotted food that smells when you open it. And there's sippy cups of rotten milk that are in the car that they might have forgotten in there from the kids' ballet practice a couple days ago, last week. Because guess what? Sometimes that happens to me. And I'm just so used to giving myself grace that when they mess up, or here's the other thing, here's the opposite. Maybe I'm hard on my own self. When I leave rotten food in my car and I find it, or the sippy cup with the old milk, and I find it, and I'm so mad because it stinks and it smells and I may have to throw something away, or there may be mold growing. And I'm like, why didn't I get rid of that last week? Because we're only human. And so is your spouse. We are all human. Empathize. Sometimes when they mess up, we need to recognize self-reflection. We've messed up too. Apologize sincerely to ourselves. Admit that we make mistakes, even when we don't think we have, because chances are we make micro mistakes every day. And that's okay, because we're giving ourselves grace all the time. Practice empathy. And this, number 4, be patient and forgiving. This goes hand in hand with apologizing. Our number 2 point, number 4, forgiving. When we're patient, when we're forgiving, then it's easier to forgive. It's easier to ask for forgiveness, which is that apologizing, right? So be forgiving of yourself. Last week, I showed up to a very important meeting and I forgot my license to actually get into the meeting. Yes, of course, I drove to the meeting and I should have had my license with me. And I usually always do. It just happened that Labor Day weekend I was wearing a waist bag and I had my license and all my important credit cards and documents in that waist bag. And then when we got back home after Labor Day, I forgot to transport all those important documents back into my purse. So I showed up to this important meeting without my license. They weren't going to let me in without the license. So I had to jump through a couple hoops in order to get let in. And the meeting happened, went successfully, but it almost didn't. And I could have been way hard on myself, and I could have been way hard on the person who wasn't letting me in to the meeting. But what? First, I self-reflected. I admitted my mistake. I apologized. I offered multiple different solutions. I said what I had to offer at that meeting. I practiced empathy because I knew where they were coming from. They were just doing their job, trying to collect my license before they could let me in. And then I was patient. And then things happened. I will tell you, if I would have become irate, demanding, walked away in a huff, that wouldn't have gone so successfully. And number 5, embrace your imperfections. Now, I've spilled the beans. I've shared all the imperfections, you guys, I made today, last week, even this weekend. I can't even tell you all of them. I did not outline them all for you. Let me just say, I was working a ton, and my husband usually works a ton during the week. I happen to work weekends. He works a lot of weeknights. I work weekends. So he takes the kids on the weekends. And I used to get so mad when the kids would get stains on their ballet outfits, their leotards. Oh, Yes. Thank you, Andrea. Yes. Imperfections, Andrea, imperfections are our authentic gems. Yes. So I used to get so mad when my daughters would come home from ballet after they would eat with their dad, because I would be working, or maybe I'd be on a coaching session or something on a meeting. And then there would be stains. There'd be smoothies, ketchup all over their leotards. Like, they have to wear, we have to send them to ballet class looking presentable. But my husband saw it a different way. They're having fun. They barely ever wear these leotards. They wear them once a week. What if they just go play to the park afterwards? And you know what? So after talking and discussing this for multiple weeks and years, and my kids have been in ballet for like 4 years now, he takes the ballet costumes off as soon as they get home, or switches them in the car. So then they're usually naked for several hours and eating their food naked. But guess what? I don't complain. They don't complain. It's okay. He's learned over multiple communications that I'd rather them be naked than have stains all over their leotards at home, not running around outside naked. We would not usually do that, like in the public Dallas places. However, if you live out in the country, I think it's great. Or inside your house, that's what we do. So embrace our imperfections, because I have them too. When I'm in charge of the kids full time and Victor's working those late evenings, I lose my mind. I am so impatient. I'm demanding my kids to sit at the dinner, eat their food before they go mess with their Polly Pockets and their Legos. And I get impatient, and my kids sense that. And I can see their eyes swelling sometimes when I've said for the 20th time, I'm not showing up. So embrace your imperfections. I know I have a lot of work to do. And so when you do that, you show up more understanding in your relationship to also embrace your spouse's imperfections. Let me tell you this one thing, write this down. You did not pick your spouse for their strongest qualities. You may think you did, right? Oh, they're super loving. They're super patient. No, I picked my spouse because he was super ambitious. He's very artistic. He's very cultured. He's very open and very welcoming of all walks of life, all ethnicities of people, all belief systems. He's a very open person. All these things. That's why if somebody would ask me why I picked my spouse, I bet you would go there. You would jump to their strengths. What if I told you you actually picked your spouse because of their weaknesses? Think about that. You picked your spouse because you knew their weaknesses and you love them anyway. And you knew you were going to be stronger together. Okay, that's embracing their imperfections. And you can still do it today. Number 6, view every day as an experiment. Y'all know this is one of my favorite words, especially when I'm coaching. It's all an experiment. What I say, what you think, what you plan to do every day. So today, I moved the backpack from the locker in the back of the house to the front door. It still didn't work. I still forgot the backpack on the way out the door. So guess what? Tomorrow I'm going to do something new. Maybe I'm going to put it on the doorknob. Maybe I'm going to put a sticky note and I'm going to put it right there. Victor certainly hasn't said anything. He's not yelling at me for forgetting the backpack. I'm not going to yell at him. I mean, listen, guys, some of the stuff is petty, but we do it. There are times that I would probably get upset at him for not remembering the backpack. You guys do it too. We all do it. Every day is an experiment. Keep that in mind. Number 7, keep communication open. Example, last week when I had the minivan keys, I called my husband. Hey, do you have the minivan keys? Yeah. Okay, he does. Yeah. So I was in the middle of traffic, almost to my work. Okay. I just kept it open. Did I blame him or yell? No. He hung up. He's like, okay, love you. He's like, okay, yeah, you're going to have to take him back home. He couldn't leave. He was in the middle of seeing a patient, actually. He couldn't leave. I could leave. He obviously missed my workout class. No big deal. $15, right? Missed glutes and abs session, but no big deal. Really, I wanted to get my nanny the keys because she had to carry on with the rest of the day with my children. Then what's the experiment we tried this week? Well, both my husband and I have both left those extra minivan keys hanging up by the front door. This morning, as I'm driving the kids to school and I'm like, my hair is on fire and I forgot the backpack. And I remembered all the medications. So that was great. But I did not make Shinola her waffles. And then she couldn't find her socks that fit her feet, right? Like every little thing. And then I didn't remember to put the bug spray on her arms. I put it on her back and her legs. And then I remembered, hey, you know what? Be patient, forgiving, empathy. She's only 6. She's 6 years old. This is what a 6-year-old's supposed to do. Today, I'm going to experiment with organizing the sock drawer with her after school. She doesn't want to do it, but we're going to do it. And I'm going to put all the socks in one bin. I don't know if you guys have a 2, 4, and a 6-year-old. Keeping track of all the different socks, it's insane. It's impossible. Put all those socks in one bin. So this is why and you guys were on point number 7. We're almost there. Keeping communication open. So what did I do when I was like, my hair was on fire? I was driving them to school. I was already 10 minutes late past when I'm supposed to pass that landmark, right? Because I was turned around to go get the backpack. Then I ended up in this gridlock situation next to this other school. Couldn't get back out. So finally just went back the other way to school without the backpack and still late. But this is what I did. My phone has this way of texting hands-free. You just press a button and you text. I told my husband I was having a terrible morning, something along those lines. I don't know exactly what I was saying, but I was telling him I was stressed out because we were talking last night about how we're going to do this moving forward. Maybe I could drop all the kids off. It's a communication. It's a communication constantly. So we were having this talk last night. It was still stressing me out this morning because I hadn't figured it out. And then I feel like I was holding all this stuff in my mind. What do? Just communicate. Tell your spouse I'm stressed out. Tell your spouse I'm really sad right now. Tell your spouse. You can even tell your kids. I even told my daughters on the way to work, I'm on the way to school, I'm super stressed out. Are they going to have a deep reflective conversation with me? No, they're 6, 4, and 2. They ended up talking about Peppa Pig, and the motorcycle that was following us. That's okay. I got it out there. And when they are ready, they'll be able to communicate those same terms with me. Same thing with your spouse, you guys. You may not be used to sharing those vulnerable emotions amongst each other. Are you telling your spouse when you're stressed out, when you're sad, when you're lonely, without expecting them to fix it? This is the communication, keeping it open, not just about who's going to take the kids to school when, who's going to meal plan, who's going to pay the credit card bills, who's going to transfer the money from this bank account to that bank account or go pick up the dry cleaning, all that transactional stuff. But keeping the communication open involves what's inside here, which means you have to do that self-reflection that we talked about in point number 1 to figure out what's going on in here and in your heart and in your mind. What is going on? And can you share that? And if not, maybe we need to discuss that. Maybe we need a journal on that. Maybe you need a client coach on that. Keep the communication open first with yourself, so then you can bring it up to your spouse. Number 8, continuously grow together. So this is my favorite, and this sums it up. And I'll just list the 8 points that I already went over in depth. Number 1, self-reflection. Once you self-reflect, you can give your spouse more grace. Apologize sincerely. Once you begin apologizing more, you give them more grace because you're giving yourself more grace. Because you're apologizing, you're admitting that you did something wrong, and then you're practicing empathy. You're seeing things through their eyes. That's number 3. Number 4, being patient, forgiving of yourself and them, of your whole family. Number 5, embracing your imperfections. I do it every day. I'm a hot mess, you guys. Number 6, using every day as an experiment. What are you going to try tomorrow? What didn't go so well today? And then keeping the communication open, the transactional day-to-day things and the emotional things. And it might not look the same for you as it does for me. It might not look the same for your spouse as it does for my spouse. So that's why it's an experiment. Every day you get to try something different until you find something that works. And then continuously growing together. So what did I do last week when I forgot my ID, when the car keys were both not with my nanny? What did I do this morning when I took the kids, to school. Did I break down in tears and cry? Maybe I did. Maybe my eyes did swell up in the car, but I kept going. And I reached out to my husband. I let him know what was going on. He told me to stop texting because I was driving, but I wasn't texting on my phone. I was texting on my car. And it's different because it's voice activated. Just want to get that out there, because if you are driving and listening to this podcast or listening to this Facebook Live or YouTube at the same time, I expect you to just be listening and not looking. Okay. So keep going. So it's like, keep going, keep swimming. When I posted this on Facebook last week, one of my friends loves Finding Nemo. We have a lot of Disney fans. Keep swimming, keep going, keep growing, keep glowing. I love that. I love that. So when you just keep going, people don't notice that you messed up. Right now, you know how much I messed up this past couple of weeks because I just told you guys. But when you keep going, people aren't focused on your past. And the ones who are, good riddance, say goodbye. We don't need you right now or ever. None of my business. Keep going. And then you will keep growing. And then you will glow. I tell you, people see you as glowing. See yourself as glowing too. So remember, giving grace is an ongoing process, requires patience, understanding, and most importantly, a willingness to let go of perfection, a willingness to allow the mess in your life and allow the mess in your spouse's life. Allow it. We're all messy. We're all human and we all make mistakes. Go give yourselves and your spouse grace today, my friends. Give your children grace today. Give your spouse more grace. So much love to you and your family. And then I will leave you with one important announcement. If you haven't already heard, the Relationship RX Summit was over 2 weeks ago. The challenge begins today with day 1. Join our Facebook group if you're not there, or look for me on social media, DM me if you haven't heard. We're about to start enrollment our enrollment is open for our the Modern Relationship RX course. We will dive deep, enhance all your relationships, grow together with the mother, the muse, the mage, the martyr, the siren, and the shrew. So much love, my friends. If you are finding the concepts I teach in these episodes useful and want more in-depth and personalized support for your relationship, consider this your invitation to join me in creating the most connected and intimate relationship with your spouse that you could dream of. Go to www.medicinemarriageandmoney.com right now and download my 18-page medical marriage survival guide and workbook at no cost to you. I also have a 6-day marriage challenge, which goes over the 6 predictors of divorce at no cost to you. These have been known to decrease fighting, rumination, and grudges between you and your loved one. If you want to take it a step farther, really enhance the joy and connection in the most intimate relationship in your life, sign up for my 8-week Making Marriage Work program today at medicinemarriageandmoney.com. Thanks for leaving us a stellar review, subscribing, and sharing with your friends on social media. You have the power to improve someone else's life and marriage simply by sharing this episode. Much love to you and your spouse. You're exactly where you need to be in this moment. Adios, my friends. The content of this episode is not intended to be a substitute for professional, medical, or financial advice. The opinions provided on this episode are those of myself or the invited guest alone. They do not represent the opinions of any particular institution. Always seek the advice of your physician or financial advisor with any questions you may have of a medical condition or financial plan. This is for your entertainment only.